update here on Monday. This is Cyber Monday, and we're going to bring in our guest today, John Lai, who's the CEO of Petvivo. We're going to talk to him about his company, and we're going to talk about what's going on in the markets as well. So without further ado, John, welcome back to the program. It's good to have you with us today.
Good morning, Hunter. It's good to be back.
Yeah, very excited to talk with you. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. Obviously, we want to get some updates from you. It's been a little bit since our last conversation, but we're reading a ton of information is coming out about the company. A lot of positive growth. You're at a lot of conferences. We just took note that there's an event in San Diego where you have some of your specialists presenting your product, the Spryng product, for the intra-articular injectable medical device that you have. So John, I really want to get an update from you as to some of the exciting things that are going on within the company.
Sure. We had the Ethos Canine Stifle study that came out about almost 2 months now. And that was our first small animal study for dogs. And that has drawn a lot of attention of veterinarians and scientists because the study had very good data behind it. And since then, we've been getting very good inquiries from small animal vets, and that's really helping us expand our revenue. From the standpoint, over 90% of our revenue was in the equine space. So to give you an example, MWI is our exclusive distributor. Probably 8 to 10% of their sales reps are equine. So now we open up, over 90% of the sales reps because we have data for them to go to the small animal vets. So there's 83 million dogs in the United States and about 60 million cats. So that was a very important study. And then 2 follow-along studies that will be out in the next week or 2. And these will be published white papers by the clinicians. One is a safety study for cats, and the other one is a safety study for dogs. So we're excited to have that data. And at the end of November, which is today pretty much, we have the American Association of Equine Practitioners Conference in San Diego. And it's the largest equine show in the United States. And Petvivo got 2 presenters accepted by the conference to do presentations, and that's Dr. Joe Manning and Dr. Thomas Yarbrough on different aspects of intra-articular injections. And, they basically cover the whole gamut and how ours is different and unique from the standpoint of providing efficacy. And then right after that, in the end of the second week of January, is the VMX, the Medical Expo in Orlando. It's the biggest small animal show, and we usually do extremely well at that show. And usually we have a couple of prominent key speakers that bring up Spryng and their use of Spryng. So we expect that to be a really good driver now that we have clinical data supporting the efficacy of the product. And then in mid-February, or second week of February, we have the Western Veterinary Conference. It's the largest show on the West Coast out of Vegas. And once again, we anticipate having some keynote speakers talk about Spryng and their use of Spryng, because these people have contacted us and asked specific questions and said, I've been getting really good results. And they indicated they were going to put it into their slide deck talking about the industry and what's new within the industry. So we found that one of the biggest drivers of new veterinary doctors are podium presentations by our vets as well as outside vets that have been using our product and just wants to help expand the word. And we're getting that type of push from the veterinary community to help. And that's part of our marketing now that we have small animal data. We will be targeting those small animal vets as well as the consumers.
John, I want to talk a little bit about when you refer to the smaller companion animals, we're talking dogs and cats, obviously. The safety study, you have a white paper we were speaking a little bit about. I'd like you to go into a little bit of in-depth as to what we can be expecting, because I know we'll be posting a link to that study as it comes out, because I know a lot of the shareholders are interested, obviously, with the explosive growth that Petvivo has been having over this past year, especially with a lot of these studies that are coming out. So I'd like to see if you could speak to that white paper that's going to be coming out.
Sure. So we contracted two outside independent groups that have a very strong reputation to do these studies. These studies are important to the vets because they took an oath, do no harm. So both of these studies will establish no harm is being done and very minimal or zero side effects. You never say zero because there's always a case that causes something. You get that with aspirin, okay? So we feel that also gives us further ammunition as some peer review publications indicated that spring should be a very good alternative for dogs that can't take NSAIDs. And given 83 million dogs, about 5% of those dogs can't take it. So spring provides a much better solution because of costs, two, because of minimal side effects or zero side effects versus the other products that are available to handle it. And instead of NSAIDs for the inflammation and pain, our product is a very good substitute. So that's a big market in itself. So we're targeting the messaging with those types of studies.
Well, and obviously with your relationship with MWI and some of these larger, getting that information out is going to be critical because it does bring about the competency level and the effectiveness and efficacy of the product, which is very good.
And also the small animal salespeople won't think we left them out because for the last year, all we've been sending is equine. So,
right.
and that's over 90% of their sales team is small animal.
Right. Well, I mean, you have 60 million cats in the U.S. alone. That's a tremendous number, especially when you look at when you're masking the symptoms that address that root cause of the lameness issues that we've talked about. I believe personally, just from a market's perspective, the more you start getting this out into the wider array of even local vets, both on we've had conversations in the past, and maybe you can speak to this because this complements the explosive growth. And I don't want to give incorrect information. I would encourage people to go back and watch some of our previous conversations that we've had on the program. But you're in basically over 50 states now that your product is represented, or from a
for 49. 49 states.
49 states.
Yeah, if you count Puerto Rico, we could go to 51. Right. It's not a state yet.
Right, exactly. Territories. We call it territories.
Yes.
So, but I think that speaks to the fact that the message is getting out there, and the more of these podium events that are going on, it's going to aid in the overall development and growth of the company, especially getting this out there. I also wanted to make another note that microcap conference, there are a lot of investors that are going to be there that are specifically looking at the growth that Petvivo's been having. And John, I know we've talked a little bit, and I'd like to kind of segue into obviously the growth that you're experiencing from a revenues perspective, because we are going into the end of the year. Today is Cyber Monday. We're seeing a lot of activity in the market, and you've been a CEO of a publicly traded company. You come from the financial services industry. I would consider you to be definitely a person that understands how to interpret the markets. So I'd like to get your opinion as to what you believe is going on in the markets and what we can expect going into the end of 2024 or end of 2023, beginning of 2024.
Sure. 2023 has been a very difficult time for the microcap space, the XBI, which is the biotech index. We tend to follow that index. So if you look at that index relative to the S&P 500, the spread or return between them is almost at all-time wideness. So two things are going to happen, or one of two things are going to happen, I should say. One is that the S&P will correct down and the XBI will go up, or they just come back to historical norms. Everything always falls back to a regression line. So I think 2024 could set up for that. Also, we have seen that near the end of the year, there's been tax loss selling in all these microcaps. So if you look at the XBI, you're seeing almost at 52-week lows or 52-week lows. Furthermore, I think you've seen companies that are very good at shorting. They're shorting these small microcaps because they know they're going into a phase where there's going to be tax loss harvesting by institutions as well as individuals. Now, what tends to happen is the institutions tend to sell in November, you
Mm.
know, and then the retail people come into October. Now, specifically for ours, I think we're very lucky is that we have very loyal shareholders that believe in the longer term vision. So I don't think we'll see the retail tax loss selling. We might have seen some of that come out in November for Petvivo, but also I believe we are subject to shorting too. There's been a big SEC push to go after the naked shorts, and the way the stock trades, it kind of indicates that you never have definitive proof. It's all an opinion, speculation on my part because there's no way you can prove that definitively.
Right.
But given the fact we have very loyal shareholders, and these shareholders have been in buying. But when you have a naked short, they have the ability to drive the stock price down. But it seems like it's leveling out here, and they may be stopping into December, getting the Santa Claus rally.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is, and we're seeing some good volume this morning coming from PETV. You're at 70 cents, but you're up 8% right now, which is good. So you're seeing a little bit of a rally. I'm curious, John, to get your take on obviously what's going on in the market. There's been a lot of conversations around the AMC's of the world and the GameStops and all of these things with Citadel and some of these companies that are have been talking about it, and I feel that they're not being asked the right questions from a journalistic perspective, but also from a market perspective. I don't think they really understand the markets. The question to the SEC and some of these things are what is going to be being done to address what is happening in the marketplace, because from a micro cap perspective, and we look at the indexes, right? I mean, we do track the indexes. If I do back of the napkin math here, John, and I'll do this live for our audience here. But if we just look at your company in particular, the price point that you have going out for the spring product we had mentioned before is about $600 something, correct?
The vets charge anywhere between 600 and 1,200 per the injection. Yeah.
Okay, so if we look at just capturing, from a revenue perspective, and this is just back of the napkin math, right? And you're looking at, say, just easy math, $200, okay, per shot, okay, or injection, and you have 60 million cats. That doesn't count the equestrian market. That doesn't count the dogs. Just 60 million cats, and you do times 6 million, right? You're looking at $1.2 billion in potential revenues. And this is just back of the napkin math. What I don't understand is when you look at the fundamentals of a company, which is what I like to do, and we see that there's obvious growth trajectory, is the message to the shareholders stop looking at the stock and start looking to the growth of the company. Because a 70-cent stock at a company that's got a potential of capturing a very minute, small, ongoing market that gives you $1 billion plus in revenues, especially with all the partnership, would seem to me that this is actually hurting the American economy when we think about it. This short selling that's going on, it's hurting companies that are actually providing serious economic impact and growth across wide ranges. We just can't have the market propped up by Nvidia and Microsoft, right? This is my big question that I have for you. How is it going to be addressed, and do you think it's gonna happen relatively quickly, or are the big boys still in charge, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So, if you really look at the economy, the innovations, the job creations, it happens at small companies. 70% of all jobs created, the majority of the innovation, because big companies really have no incentive to innovate because they're in an oligopoly situation in most parts. So their biggest fear is the little guy coming around and creating a technology advancement that leapfrogs them. So it's not to their benefit to make it easier for the little guy. So, that's why we have the regulatory environment that we're in. Now, you mentioned how concentrated this rally has been because it's pretty much in the Magnificent Seven, or you can expand it out to nine in NVIDIA, Meta, and so on. Because if you go to equally weighted, the market's probably down. for the S&P 500, or on change. So we're caught up as a micro cap where we're vulnerable to this type of shorting. The SEC, I believe, is trying to make an effort, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult to prove illegal naked shorting. It's all an intuitive sense. I've seen enough of it, and I believe we are, but I'm not going to make this definitive statement. Yes, we're illegally being shorted,
Right.
we're easy targets. Small caps are easy targets in this type of environment.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's becoming more and more difficult because there's a lot. Well, and I will say there is a lot of conversations on the social media platforms talking about this because of some of this illegal activity, which is happening. I mean, we obviously know it's happening. Now, can we point fingers? We probably could. We're not going to, but we But
Yep.
for me, the fundamental thing that I look at the segment is called the American wallet. This is important. If I'm investing into a company, right, and I think this is an important note for the shareholders. If I just look at the overall almost omnipresence that you've created with Spring, where you're at all the conferences, you're getting the platform time, you're looking at the potential market share, you're looking at MWI. To me, the 3 to 5 year hold for a Petvivo shows a tremendous opportunity for growth, especially when you can get the revenues seriously up into the B's without really, a lot of heavy lifting, John. It's just market share, acquisition, in my opinion, right? I don't need all 60 million cats. I just need a small little sliver of it. And as the vets start, singing the same, carol, if you will, holiday, pun intended here, is
Yep.
that they become your salespeople. The feline owners or the dog owners become the advocates of the product because they're essentially extended family members. There are brands. There are, so to me, it's going to be very interesting to see how, the shareholders maybe double down on these companies because they're looking at the fundamentals. So that's really kind of what I'm going to be paying very close attention to when we're evaluating these various developments in the company. Yours is obviously, triggered for prime growth. So I'd like to see that reflected in the stock. So if shareholders or investors are looking at this, make sure you go look at PETV because, now's the time to buy.
So you raised some very good points there. And just in the short term, in the next 90 days, we have multiple catalysts that could really propel us from a business standpoint. Also, when you bring up the cat osteoarthritis market, it's been a way underserved market because nobody's been really doing the diagnostics properly. And now Zoetis' Solentia product is out there. They're really helping us do that diagnostics. And we feel we compare extremely well against their feline products. So they're helping really expand the market. So we're talking market expansion of that 60 million cats. So there is no leader in the space. I mean, by the raw size, Zoetis is automatically the leader, but there is really no prescribed mainstream or what they view as the number one therapy that would, that they're obviously Zoetis is pushing for Solentia, their cat monoclonal, just like Librela for the dogs, but that's still up in the air who's going to capture that market. So we feel we're positioned extremely well. The valuation of our company is under 10 million right now. So if you think about the valuation and the long-term risk-reward outlook, I think it's quite good.
Well, yeah, that's how I evaluate companies, right, on a daily basis when we see this and we talk about these companies. And this is before, and I encourage our audience, our listeners, and viewers to take a step back and look at some of the other interviews that John and I have had, the conversations, because outside of the equestrian, which he's pretty much dominated in with the Spring product in the equine space, moving into the companion pets, both dogs and cats, represents a tremendous opportunity for market share. But that's before we even get into when you set up your special task force for the human market. The osteoarthritis market in humans is one of the biggest, markets out there. And so if I'm looking at, as you say, that if I do a risk reward exercise here, my long-term viability as a company, just from a growth perspective, is tremendous.
Yes, the human market on a global basis is 240 billion a year, and I don't know of anybody that doesn't have an issue with their back or hip or knee. So I think the population base, that are adults, is a product that we can help. From the equine side, we still have a lot of growth potential there because competitive products are doing 30, $40 million, and we feel our product competes extremely well in that space. So there's still a lot of education to be given on the equine space. It takes time for adoption to hit that critical point where it goes boom, the hockey stick. But I think we're getting closer each quarter.
Well, no, I step by step, and that's why I think it's important when these white papers come out, because it's immediate information to the public and it's immediate information to the vets and the veterinarians, and really kind of we the pet owners as well. So I think the market is definitely there. I mean, it's blatantly obvious in my opinion. So we'll leave that up to the audience to decide. But it is Cyber Monday. We're looking for that Santa Claus rally that hopefully will be happening. Make sure you take a look at Petvivo. Also, I do want to put a plug out there on Twitter and social media. You should have seen some of our posts out there for Petvivo Cares. That's a nice little nonprofit that they have where they donate some of their products as well to people in need, which I think is very important. So, John, real quick, I'll give you the last kind of bit of time here. Share with us, I know we talked about what the next 90 days, but what are some of the top points that you want to get across today in closing?
Well, we have probably another 7 studies, so it's amazing the impact of these studies. Because they're not FDA approval studies, you can do them much smaller to give very good evidence. So you give a 98% confidence level versus 99.9. So we feel comfortable when these studies come out over the next 12 months, it'll just continue to strengthen the efficacy and the product that it can go. And it will also strengthen our thesis that Spryng should be looked at as first use product, because that's where we feel our benefit in the longer term run can help for a lot of the dogs and horses and so on, acting as a more of a prophylactic. So when you have the first sign or right before the first sign, you do the injection, you'll prolong and prevent the more serious condition to occur.
Well, look, we'll be posting the studies when they come out as well. We'll be sharing it across. We encourage everyone to follow the news on your website, Petvivo and Petvivo Cares. Obviously, you can follow them on social media at Petvivo, and then their stock symbol is PETV. John, always a pleasure to have you on the program. We look forward to having you back here very shortly.
Thank you, Hunter. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, John. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. That was John Lai. He's the CEO of Petvivo. Incredible updates coming from the company. We are excited to see where this goes. If you are going to be in the city and you follow them on Twitter, they will be at the Microcap Conference in January. That's the end of January, beginning of February. I believe those dates are the 30th, January 30th through February 1st. So make sure you stay posted. Also, make sure you like and subscribe on all of our channels. We are growing, working with some new marketing companies as well. And so the platform is expanding. The podcast is going very, very well. And our newsletter on LinkedIn, The American Wallet, will be posted out later today as well. I will also be writing about a special report that I will be writing that will come out on LinkedIn later today, addressing the potential market size of just the companion pet space. So make sure you watch out and what that means. That'll come from the American Wallet. So make sure you subscribe to that newsletter on LinkedIn as well. Lots of great information from John. Always, it's great to have him get his idea on what's going on in the market. Listen, I am a big believer in this product. I think that there is tremendous growth opportunity, and you have to look at it from a business perspective to see the potential market growth that they can have. just from a business perspective. So I'll be writing a little bit about that as well. So make sure you like and subscribe. And it's always great to have you here on an episode of Markets Hunter and this special segment, The American Wallet. We look forward to having you back on our program very soon.
Lameness issues, joint pain, and osteoarthritis can be difficult to treat and debilitating for an animal's health and well-being. Take control of lameness issues and joint pain. Introducing Spring with OsteoCushion technology. With just one injection, Spring with OsteoCushion technology targets the root cause of lameness issues, joint pain, and osteoarthritis, helping animals do what they do best.
Coming to you live with the insight you need from the financials and political capitals of the world to the heart of innovation. This is Opportunities to Consider with your host, author, speaker, and corporate strategist, Hunter Gaylor.